So I'll call the open board meeting of Tuesday, April 6th, 2021 to order. I squale siem na sietya, ana squalawan kawana silam nala. We respectfully acknowledge that we are meeting on the traditional and ancestral lands of the Coatsan people where we live, learn, and play. If I could have a motion to adopt the agenda. Moved by Trustee Thorne, seconded by Trustee Croft. All those in favor? Motion carries. Moving to minutes of the March 2nd, 2021 open board meeting. Motion to adopt the minutes, please. Moved by Trustee Kemmler, seconded by Trustee DeGroot. All those in favor? Motion carries. Moving through recognition and delegations to the report of the closed meeting.
Thank you. The board met in closed session just prior to this meeting. They talked about personnel assignments, contract issues, and property items, and we'll return following for more discussion around property items.
Thank you. Moving to item 6, old business, the action list. Mr. Sandquist, if you could put the list up, that would be great. Thank you. Is there an update from staff? No, we're all good. So is there a question from a trustee or questions from trustees? No. Seeing none, moving on to the next agenda item, which is chair of the board. 7.1 is the moving forward report from BCSDA. I wonder, Mr. Sandquist, if you could put that up. And I just want to walk you through a couple of important items there. In the preamble, I think the important points are that collectively districts in BC, with the help of the ministry and the provincial health officer and others involved, have worked hard to create low risk environments and to ensure schools are safe for students and staff throughout the pandemic. And the other important point in that section is that they have acknowledged that the role of schools is to support the health and welfare of children, families, and communities to a far greater degree of recognition than before. The challenges that have been identified are all listed there, and there's certainly areas that we have talked about before. In planning for success, according to the BCSDA survey, they have identified 6 top priorities, and they're all listed throughout this article, which are mental health, wellness, and social isolation, supporting vulnerable learners, food in schools, cleanliness, connectivity for technology, and financial resources and certainty. And I think if those were the directives for us to be budgeting around, I think we would have our plan in place. So any comments or questions around the moving forward report? And this has, of course, been filed with the minister and ministry, hoping for additional attention for us. The second item I have there is the BCSTA. There are 5 of us attending at this point, which is great. Thank you. I have one more chairs training session this week. And after that, I should be able to know a bit about how to support our board moving through this. After that training, we'll need to meet on Zoom as the 5 of us to make some decisions around the elections and around the motions. If you could do a quick read of the motions before that meeting, it would be helpful. And perhaps look at the candidates that are running for election as well. So we can determine as a board which way our votes are going to go. Also, the other piece is to take a training session, which will be after our meeting, but I think they will be helpful. Any questions around the AGM for BCSTA? No. Okay, third item is the Vista AGM, and Vista will be meeting during the BCSTA AGM. It'll happen on Saturday morning, and the piece of information that I would like to pass to you is that it will only be a half an hour. So when the other board or BCSTA business ends at noon, Vista will meet for half an hour, and that will give a half an hour break before BCSTA starts again. Any questions on that one? Okay, moving to 7.1.4, government to government meeting. As you know, we have been invited to meet with the other local governments in the area, and that's on Thursday, April 22nd from 1 o'clock to 4 o'clock. No agenda has arrived yet. Can you just give me a straw vote as to who's going to be able to attend that meeting besides me? Oh, good. Trustee Croft, Trustee Kemmler, Trustee Thorne, and Trustee Spilsbury. That's a great attendance. Thank you for taking the time. Okay, and moving to 7.2 for board action, a couple of areas. The first is committee change. And as you know, childcare is coming and coming pretty quickly. We already have an early learning committee, so it seems appropriate to add childcare into the responsibilities of that committee. So the first suggested motion here is to do that, is that we move ad hoc early learning committee, well, move it away so it becomes inactive, and we replace it with a standing committee, an early learning and childcare committee. And the second motion or suggested motion is that we direct our staff to develop a draft purpose, powers and duties, membership and meetings for that standing committee. And that comes directly from our policy that each one of those areas need to be developed for a standing committee. Trustee Croft?
For the first one under that section, it doesn't mean that all of the current committee members are out the door, does it? Do we get a good chance at being on the early learning committee?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Second question, Trustee Hutchins?
No one can hear here.
You have to unmute.
You're muted.
I'm curious about the word inactivated. Do we not disband a committee? Inactivated means they're going somewhere else and can be activated some other time. In my mind, turning to Mr. Sandquist, do we not disband committees rather than make them inactive?
I am certainly happy to take that friendly amendment if that's what it is. Mr. Sandquist?
They mean similar things to me, but I think disbanded is a little clearer.
So move that. No, I'd love it to be a friendly amendment if you'd accept a friendly amendment.
Well, I would. Is there a mover for the motion? Moved by Trustee Thorne, seconded by Trustee Hutchins. Any debate on that motion? All those in favor? Motion carries. Second idea there that is in a suggested motion that staff prepare us with all the background material. Is there a mover for that suggested motion? Moved by trustee DeGroot, seconded by trustee Kemmler. Any debate on that motion? All those in favor? Motion carries. And moving to item 7.2.2, enrollment marketing plan. And as we talked about at the last board planning, there seems to be a marketing plan that is being prepared, if not already activated, around informing the community of the wide range of programs that we will have, as well as their high quality in our next school year. And it seems to me that it would be a good idea so that we can support it to hear that plan at the next board meeting so that we are knowledgeable and able to also get that communicated into the community. So I have put down a suggested motion which just asks for that plan to come to our next board meeting. Moved by trustee Thorne, seconded by trustee DeGroot. Any conversation on the motion? All those in favor? Motion carries. Moving to superintendent of schools, Ms. Gray.
Thank you very much. I just want to provide an update. We have been through our second out of 3 collaborative sessions that are all day long sessions, which with each one of our proponents that are looking to acquire building and designing our new high school. And so those occurred on March 29th, 30th, and the 31st of last week. And our third one will be coming up in May. And then as the board may be aware, it will be in later this fall that we will be going through the process of choosing from Yellow Ridge, Urban One, and or Kinetics in terms of who will be planning, designing, and building our new Cowichan Secondary School. So it's very exciting work. And I do want to really congratulate, I know the Cowichan Secondary School, they have a team who have certainly worked very closely with some of our leads around how they see that building, what kind of rooms need to be adjacent to one another, because this certainly is very exciting times of building a new high school there that will be there for a very, very long time, perhaps even, upwards of 70 years. So very exciting time and the work that we're able to do there. So moving on to 8.1.2, in your package, we have a very long operational plan that relates to our strategic plan. So this takes our priorities, it creates actions, and we have worked with our entire community. Last spring, we worked with anybody who wanted to come forward, CUPE, USW, teachers, to talk about our priority and how do we need to action that. And so you'll see in your package a very long document. And it's all of our actions that we need to do for the next 4 years. And so it may seem lofty, but I think that what we need to take a look at, that it is a living document, it's dynamic. And right now we have it finalized and we're now ready to put it out publicly, to formalize it and put it on our website and ensure that our entire community knows what we're doing with regard to our strategic plan. And so if you had time to look at that, or if there's any questions, I'm happy to take those. But we're looking forward to putting that up in the next couple weeks on our website and throughout our communications.
I don't see any questions or comments, but I'd certainly like to provide for you and your team, all of our staff in the district, just thank you and congratulations. It's just an amazing plan with so many activities and initiatives. It will take a lot of work. I know it was a lot of work to get there, but there's a lot of work left to do. And we're really appreciative of that work for our kids. Thank you.
Thank you. It's our roadmap. And I think that was what we need to look at. It's our roadmap to support all of our learners out there. And then lastly, I'll move to 8.1.3, and I just have a few items. March is always a bit of a shorter month with a number of holidays in there, but I want to just acknowledge and appreciate that, you know, we have Administrative Professionals Day, which occurs on April the 21st, coming up here in the next couple of weeks. And so this is when we acknowledge all of our support, administrative support, all of those folks out there who keep this learning community fully in operation and running. And so we will be acknowledging all of our administrative assistants during that professional week. And in fact, sometimes now it's not so much a day, we look at it as a bit of a week now. So that is coming up here shortly. I also want to acknowledge Human Resources. They have been able to organize an electronic transfer process for teachers. So there could be a little bit of bumps because technology always causes that to happen every once in a while. But we're very excited that we're moving forward in an electronic transfer process that will be very helpful, very efficient, and, you know, move us along in terms of going through a process that's electronic. And then I want to have a third statement around appreciation, because it wasn't an easy week coming back from spring break last week before the Easter weekend. And I really want to thank all of our partners. And I think that when I think about last week with some of the new requirements that were coming out around the use of masks and so on, some changes that occurred, and also the fact that, you know, we have a COVID-19 rapid response team that's positioned outside of the Central Island in Nanaimo. But during that week, with all of our partners, your patience was certainly appreciated. You're very communicative with us in terms of the needs that we need to look at and how do we address some of the challenges. And so as we move with some different requirements from the CCDC, we also had to adjust our provincial health and safety guidelines, which we have to follow. And so a lot of mixed messages occurred, but I think that all of our partners worked really closely with us so that we could be as timely and effective and impactful as we could. And so I really want to thank all of them around that particular matter. I think that when you're making some changes in this environment that has had a lot of changes in the past year, that we were quite nimble in terms of trying to organize and orchestrate and coordinate a new requirement of mask use and wear from grades 4 to grade 12. And so what comes with that would be differences of opinion, certainly from all areas of the community. But at the same time, I think that as we work together and we have more clear communication and we have questions being answered in a timely way, it just helps for everyone to become a little bit more grounded with regard to that and those changes. So just wanted to express my appreciation. I know that there has been a lot of active exposures across Vancouver Island. We have been fortunate up till this moment of time, but I do want to alert the board that the COVID-19 rapid response team on Vancouver Island is positioned out of Nanaimo, but at the same time, they have also asked for people from our district to be part of that. And so I wanted everyone to be aware that our Associate Superintendent, Cheryl Coors, she also sits at the provincial table around health and safety matters, and she'll be part of that. We also have our Director of Communication, Mike Russell, who's also part of that. And then in addition to the third person will be Kelly Kinghorn, and she's our Manager of Health and Safety. And so they're already organizing with that particular team and also some schools in terms of how do we work toward next year in September and what things need to be addressed around some of our health and safety plans and what's good practice and what are some things that we might need to let go. So that's currently underway there.
Oh,
Any questions before I move on?
sorry, Trustee Croft.
I just wanted to say thank you to Robin and her team and especially our families, because coming out of spring break, people were really hit with a double whammy of conflicting information or just a lot to handle. And I'm just so thankful that in the school community, we had the communicators and the compassion to move through that and get the right information out to everybody. It does require a lot of patience on all our parts to just get up every day and do the right thing. Even when the right thing is a moving target, they keep moving the goalposts, but following those rules is just the right thing to do for everybody. And I'm so thankful that we're in a community with professionals and people who really respect that. So thank you so much, Rob. And please extend our thanks to your team on that.
Well, I'd like to make a comment.
Thank
I
you.
think it's everyone, it's so many people, and the principals and vice principals certainly have had to work with the students and the families and the communities, and so really challenging times. But again, as a community, we come together and we try to manage those challenges together and make it work overall around some of the safety matters. So anyway, we look forward to having the COVID-19 rapid response team, and I think that their work is going to be well received. Pete Langstrat is our lead with regard to that team, and so we'll continue that work and keep the board updated. And lastly, certainly, but not least, around my report would be that those rainbow crosswalks, it appears that some painting is going to get underway very soon, and so certainly when you're out and about, we're going to be very excited when we get each one of those crosswalks done, because we do know that there has been some excellent educational work that's been done from the inclusive ed department. And we certainly want to start getting out there as a symbol in terms of what we support and supporting all of our children and any of our family members who need to have those safe places to be. So we're looking forward to having those complete by late spring.
That's great. Thank you.
That's the end of my
Is that-
report.
Okay, thank you. Secretary Treasurer.
Thank you. I have 4 items this evening for information, and I'm going to share the screen for the first. So the first item is a chart. We receive each year a demographics report for all of the students in the Cowichan Valley. So we subscribe to a software company called BearGar, and they track all of the district students and where they live. And they also track all of the students that live within our boundaries that don't attend within School District 79 schools. So this is a comparison of the percentage of students that SD 79 enroll each year with the balance being to private. So you can see that it was on a decline, the number of students that SD 79 captured of the local available population until 2014, 2015. And then it's been recovering every year since. So I thought this was a good news piece of information for the board to see that they're, it's interesting in that public enrollment went down to 2014-15, but private enrollment went up to 2014-2015, and then there's been a reversal. So I think that is just some information for the board. So I'll move on to the next item, and the next item is the interim capital plan response letter. So I'm going to share the screen again and go to that item. And this is interim. And so what has occurred is the ministry hasn't set their annual budget yet, or so the province hasn't set their annual budget yet, and will be doing so on or around April the 20th. So the ministry has given the board a preliminary announcement for capital with the potential for more to come in May. And so what has been approved so far, the bylaw is not required at this time. That will be required when we get the final numbers in May. But for information, there's you can see some roofing projects there for Mount Prevost, Tanzer, Salmonosh, Jimenez Elementary, and then a energy system upgrade for Quamachin School. And hopefully there'll be some buses on the next one and some other projects as well. So stop share. There'll be more on that to come in May. The next item I have here is an update on the 2021-2022 budget preparation. So I was at the EBC with the board recently and provided a summary of, just a second, I'm just going to share my screen here again. A summary of what we projected our surplus to be. So we saw this document at BEBC, but I brought it back because over the weekend, the funding came in for the February count that we didn't have before, and it came in $382,000 higher than what had been projected. So that is some good news, and I wanted to now provide the board with a revised surplus estimate as of February 28th that is now moved to 1.762 million, and previously it was just under 1.4. So that is the addition of that February funding. And on top of that, the board still has $1.4 million of unallocated surplus from the current year, previous year. So moving on, I want to do a quick, oops, my formulas are gone. Well, this is not going to work. I'm going to have to stop share and grab a different document. One moment, please. Okay, I'm back. My apologies. So I wanted to start with showing the board roughly where we're at with our revenues. And so we've had some revisions to what we presented the last time with BEBC, which was a very, very broad first look at revenues. So here you can see where I announced previously that we had $84 million grant announcement. And the previous year it was 82 million, and we were looking at how it was up by 2.154 million. But I also had mentioned that all these other areas are now in the labor settlement funding. So we now have this $2 million that are now in the per pupil funding. So we now have this $2 million that used to sit outside in this number up here. We have the support staff benefit that used to sit outside in this number up here. So overall, we're looking at our grant dropping by about $431,000. And I'd also talked about the underfunding of the wage increases. And I've confirmed with another island district that they had approximately on scale the same amount of underfunding that we had to support our support staff and teacher wage increases for this next year. So I think that was also something I wanted to share with the board. We're making a slight reduction on international program revenues, reflecting that many of our students from China have graduated and it's difficult to get new students in at the moment. And so we're looking at a total drop in our operating revenue of $552,792 from the current year. So that is $86,890,000. So when we look at where that takes us, we bring that $86,890 into our revenue side. Our current expenditures with all of our inflationary items, including those wage increases, and just basically rolling over the current year without making any significant changes to it, are $90,874,000. And we have a commitment for financial software redevelopment to take care of our human resources, procurement, and payroll, et cetera. So that leaves us with a starting budget position of just over $4 million as a shortfall. But you know that we are in declining enrollment, and with that comes some natural staffing reductions. Fewer classrooms, for instance, are required if there's fewer students. So we know that there is approximately $860,000 that will come out. We preliminarily received a benefit premium holiday of $161,000. That number is expected to be significantly higher. That is because nobody was able to go to the dentist or chiropractor for the first part of last year. So that actually takes us to a starting position without any surplus brought in of about a shortfall of just over $3 million. So once we start to bring in surplus, which I've shown you has now been revised, which is why I updated the February count, it won't be quite as significant. It should be somewhere around the $1 million mark that we'll be looking to find as we balance next year's budget. Just going to stop sharing. I've shared some bad news, but doable, and we'll start to begin to bring options to the board shortly.
Trustee Croft?
Is there any murmuring or thought? I mean, are we going to be incurring COVID-related expenses, you know, in terms of maintaining those sanitation stations, having masks on hand, that kind of thing?
Yeah, I think, as we start to get into more details on options, that would be an additional cost pressure if it doesn't come with additional funding. And I don't know that the ministry will be able to commit that before the budget cycle is over.
Okay.
I think we need to be thinking very seriously about what degree of those need to be put into the budget. So do we need the same level of cleaning, which was funded with $700,000 of external resources, or something lower? We won't have to buy the equipment again. We certainly know that we have the sprayers, et cetera, and it's just really the cleaning supply, but still somebody needs to be able to operate. So we have to look at all those various things. And I think some of those lessons came out of the advisory committee as well, from that consultation, that we also need to cost and factor in when we start to present options. I'm just trying to give you a really quick snapshot of where we're starting, and then we'll do way more at the ABC next week.
Thank you very much.
Any further questions of the Secretary Treasurer? Okay, thank you. And that's your report then?
I have one more item.
Oh, sorry.
And I do wish I had better, always had better news when it comes to starting our budget every year. One year I want to come and say, we've got money. What are we going to spend it on? So the last item is to review. This is a good news item, a really good news item. So the last item here, is to renew the FNESC announcement on the Joint First Nations Student Transportation Plan approval. So significant funding is coming into the school district, and you can see it listed here for each of the nations for extracurricular and transportation and water taxis and buses, etc. And I think each at the end of this report is each nation's allocation. And so you can see the work that was done by Vice Principal Vanessa McDowell, who went out and consulted with all of the nations and built these plans, and we've successfully received these supports. And that's the last part of my report.
Thank you. Are there any questions from trustees? Well, thank you for your report, Secretary Treasurer, and you ended on a good note, so thank you. All right, moving to committees and outside organizations. The first is BEBC on March 30th, 2021. Trustee Hutchins. Oh, could you put your speaker on, please?
My apologies. So move the minutes of March 20th.
Thank you. Moved by Trustee Hutchins, seconded by Trustee Thorne. All those in favor? Motion carries. Moving to highlights of the February 25th, 2021 Board Ad Hoc COVID Transition Committee meeting. Trustee Kemmler. Oh, put your mic on, please.
My apologies. I'd like to move those minutes, please.
Moved by Trustee Kemmler, seconded by Trustee Thorne. All those in favor? Motion carries. Moving to item C, highlights of the March 11th, 2021 DSAC meeting. Trustee Kemmler.
That was a really nice little meeting, and I'd like to move those minutes, please.
Moved by Trustee Kemmler, seconded by Trustee Croft. All those in favor? Motion carries. Moving to upcoming meetings and events. Could you put that schedule up, please, Secretary Treasurer? So it's a busy month. Any comments or changes from trustees or staff? Okay. All right, seeing no hands, let's go back to the agenda correspondence. We have one letter of thank you back to us for writing to the Prime Minister, thanking them for the COVID health and safety money to put in effective programming in our schools. Need a motion to receive and file the letter. Moved by trustee DeGroot, seconded by trustee Croft. All those in favor? Motion carries. No new business. Moving to question period. Are there any questions in the chat?
None presently, but we'll just watch for a couple seconds here.
Okay.
Still not seeing any.
Okay, so I'll ask for a motion to adjourn. Moved by trustee DeGroot, seconded by. Would someone like to second the motion to adjourn by trustee Doman? All those in favor? Motion carries.